WCBI News at 6 starts now.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. The man arrested in the 1990 Starkville Labor Day murder case has been indicted.
An Oktibbeha County grand jury indicted Michael Devon on one count of capital murder and one count of sexual battery in the death of Betty Jones and the assault of Catherine Krigler. Devon is accused of entering Krigler's home on Labor Day evening in 1990. Her friend, Betty Jones, was visiting at the time. Police believe Jones answered the door, and that's when Devon allegedly entered the home, killed Jones, then went into the bedroom where he sexually assaulted Krigler and left her for dead. Krigler was able to call 911. Starkville investigators used new resources like Ancestry.com and DNA science at Parabon Labs in Virginia and at the Scales DNA Lab in Jackson to find Devon. His arraignment is scheduled for tomorrow in Oktibbeha County Circuit Court.
Capital cases like the Labor Day murders are some of the most consuming and difficult to build. District 16 District Attorney Scott Colon actually has 4 pending capital cases.
That's right. Colon says the extra work that goes into these cases often means it takes longer for them to get on trial. Our Jory Talley talked to Colon today, and she joins us now in the studio with more on that.
In nearly 4 years as district attorney, Colon has taken one capital case to trial. He says that's largely because of the extensive investigation to make sure they have the right person, the extra preparation to build a solid case.
It's not too much to say that capital murder cases can be a matter of life and death for the defendant. With the death penalty on the table, these cases come with their own special set of circumstances to consider.
One of the big parts is typically there's going to have to be a mental evaluation to determine whether the defendant is eligible for the death penalty. The courts usually have to have school records and medical records to determine whether there needs to be a mental evaluation.
A lot of background research is done to determine if the death penalty is the appropriate punishment for the crime and the person accused of committing it.
When you're talking about death penalty, you have to look at mitigation and aggravation as to whether the person should get the death penalty or not. And so that takes a lot of research and investigation into the person's background, prior felonies, prior accusations, school records, things that may have happened to them.
There's also another factor that comes into play with these cases. District Attorney Scott Colon says often a capital case isn't going to be tried where the crime happened.
Because the courts want to make sure that you get an impartial jury making that decision. So there's a lot of research that has to go into what county and what's the appropriate county, and then arranging that.
And by Mississippi law, prosecutors have to share everything with the suspect's defense team months before the trial.
Start off with the burden of proving they're guilty, and the first way you do that is through discovery and giving them and their lawyer the evidence to show them the strength of the case you have against them, and then but it's still ultimately up to them whether they want to have their constitutional right for us to prove that they're guilty to a jury.
Colon says whether a defendant admits guilt and takes a plea deal or wants a jury to determine their fate, prosecutors always prepare for a trial. And if the defendant is found guilty and receives the death penalty, a new phase begins.
For example, if somebody is given the death penalty, it's a long appeal process. It's not like the person gets executed within a year or two. It's 20, 30 years of appeal process. And sometimes victims can be frustrated by that. And so you want to make sure they understand that it's not an easy process, not a short process.
Colon says with the Labor Day murder cases being nearly 30 years old, it is a priority to get the case prosecuted as quickly as possible.
A Starkville man is indicted for manslaughter in connection with a deadly March 2018 crash. 61-year-old Jimmy Andrew Sims is now charged with culpable negligence manslaughter after a grand jury chose to indict him. Sims is accused of driving at speeds over 90 miles per hour and causing a crash on Lampkin Street near South Montgomery. 41-year-old Tanya Graham of Cedar Bluff later died from injuries in the crash. If convicted, Sims faces up to 20 years in prison.
A Starkville man is facing a new charge for an alleged sexual crime, that is. Johnny Harris was indicted by an Oktibbeha County grand jury on a statutory rape charge. He was originally charged with sexual battery for the alleged incident from December 2017. District Attorney Scott Colomb saying some language had to be changed in the prosecution of the case. Harris's bond was set at $50,000.
New at 6, Lowndes County narcotics agents take marijuana and ice off the streets, but a suspect remains on the run. Agents pulled over a SUV near 4th Avenue North about 3:30 this afternoon. Commander Archie Williams says 3 people took off running from the vehicle. 2 were caught. Charges are pending. No names are being released at this time. The SUV was also towed away from that scene.
The cause of a deadly Lee County fire remains under investigation. Coroner Carolyn Green says she was called to the Skyline community on Highway 178 just before 4 this morning. One person was killed in the blaze. The person's name is not being released right now. A spokeswoman for the state fire marshal says the fire is being investigated. Early indications, though, are that the blaze could be heating related. We turn things over now to Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson for a first look at our forecast.
Mostly clear right now in the city of Columbus. You can see that with our Alpha Insurance camera network. Twilight still ongoing here. A pretty decent day. Temperatures getting back up to around 40 degrees. We still have temperatures in the 30s here, low 30s across the board. The wind chill down into the 20s in the Columbus area. Other spots too, like Winona at 29 and West Point. But overall, the wind is relaxing. It was very persistent this morning. And it was brisk earlier, very brisk. But for tonight, 20s, low 20s, and even a few upper teens likely around here for your day. Wednesday, partly cloudy, seasonably cool. We're looking at temperatures in the 30s to low 40s. Your full forecast in just a few minutes.
All right, today's frigid temperatures didn't stop a group of people from getting out to get an accurate count of the homeless population in Tupelo.
Each year, an initiative to locate and identify the homeless takes place across the state. WCBI's Allie Martin went along with the Homeless Coalition this morning.
If you want to get an accurate count of the homeless, you go where they are. Alan Tisdale is with Mississippi United to End Homelessness, or MUTE. The Jackson-based group is helping with something called the point-in-time count.
Agencies go out in their coverage area and try to determine the exact number of people who are sleeping in a place not meant for human habitation or an emergency shelter.
As chairperson of Tupelo's Homeless Task Force, Hannah Meharry is an advocate for the homeless population, doing what she can to break down common misconceptions many people have about those without a roof over their head.
There's a stereotype out there, as we all know, that people that are homeless are just bums, right? And that we're really trying to work to break down that stereotype. Like, you can't stereotype people. You can't even stereotype people that are in homelessness.
Some people end up on the streets because they lost their jobs. Others are dealing with substance abuse or mental health issues. Getting an accurate count of the homeless population is more than just a numbers game. It's a way to find out the needs of the homeless community and direct them to services that can help get them off the streets.
And once you become homeless, it is so hard to get back up. You got to catch a break somewhere.
Jim speaks from experience. He didn't want his face on camera or his real name used, but he told us he wants to get off the streets. He also appreciates the efforts of those who want to get an accurate count and help those who want a helping hand.
It's a struggle every day. Every day is a struggle.
In Tupelo, Allie Martin, WCBI News.
Last year, 78 homeless people were found in Tupelo. This year's figures will be shared with the city and a variety of organizations that help the homeless population.
Schools across the area are hitting the Clorox wipes as well as the books.
Yeah, we take a look at how they're working to fight the flu this winter when we come back.
Watching WCBI News at 6 with Andrea Self and Joey Barnes.
Welcome back, everyone. The threat of severe weather closed a lot of schools today, but something else has been keeping students out of class for a few weeks.
It's flu season, and school administrators are doing their best to make sure it's marked absent. Our Riley Livingston takes a look at the steps schools are taking. She joins us now in the studio with more. Riley.
This time of year, teachers and principals are just as focused on their students' physical health as they are their intellectual growth. So they're putting in some extra classwork to keep the bug at bay.
We would rather stop it before it happens rather than chasing it and trying to catch up.
Flu season is here, and schools across the area are doing everything they can to keep their students healthy. From spraying down desks to wiping down door handles, everything is getting a good clean. For East Webster Elementary School, they start off with their youngest students.
We start early, so in kindergarten, the kindergarten teachers are very, very good about teaching those procedures. You go to the restroom, use hand sanitizer, use soap, sneeze into your elbow, cough into your elbow. So we just start from the youngest available age that we get them in kindergarten, and we work our way up.
Teachers then step in to keep their rooms clean and sanitized. They rely heavily on the support of parents to get them the supplies they need.
At the very beginning of the school year, we have a class supply list that goes home with the students, and the parents are our number one providers. They give us hand sanitizer, Kleenexes, Lysol wipes for our desk, and so daily we wipe our desks down. We wipe down iPads and Chromebooks and light fixtures, anything that's touched.
But the work doesn't stop when flu season ends. They try to keep everyone healthy from the day school starts to the end of the year.
It's kind of a year-round process. Of course, we do a lot of cleaning and things in the summer, and as soon as school starts in August, because a lot of times you'll have early flu cases, it's just like a year-round process.
Keep down the sickness and just keep a clean school. I be sure that I get the restrooms and water fountains, and I spend a lot of time in the restroom.
It's important to keep students as healthy as possible so they can keep on learning.
The healthier we keep our students, the better able they're going to be to perform in the classroom, and just the general cleanliness of the building. It makes for a better educational environment for the students.
Kimberly Stallings tells us if your child is sick, the best thing you can do is not send them to school. Keep them home and away from other kids.
We love the cirrus clouds at sunset. Another great one here from Sullivan, Alabama. For tonight, we're looking at around 30 degrees in the near term, and by this evening, low 20s by 11 o'clock, around 20 tonight. Your full forecast is next.
Your WCBI First Alert AccuWeather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
Here's our Off Insurance Camera Network from Columbus Tupelo Vernon at Durham's Pharmacy, downtown Louisville, Mississippi today. A lot of sunshine as expected. Boy, that snowfall for the snow forecast was basically a glorified bust in our area. I'm going to be the first one to admit it was a complete disaster from a forecast perspective. We did verify a lot of things, just not the snow switchover. The cold air just couldn't really catch up to that moisture. So some of you saw a little bit of snow this morning, southern Winston, parts of Choctaw County, but overall a non-event for us. And we did clear out the sky today, got up to around 40 degrees. We have temperatures still in the low 30s right now, wind chills in the upper 20s in some spots. Not as cold as this. These are current numbers, mind you. Current numbers, minus 25 in Fargo, 27 degrees below zero in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Let's factor in the wind, shall we? It is brutal, with wind chill values now from minus 40 to minus 60. Grand Forks was actually to minus 60 about 2 hours ago, so things have improved. It puts things into perspective. For us, not as cold. We are looking at lows tonight, low 20s, maybe a few upper teens out there. So that's where we're headed tonight for your Wednesday. We start out on a chilly note, but getting back into the 30s and 40s. Temperatures will be all over the place tomorrow, closer to the Tennessee state line. we'll have a reinforcing shot of some cooler air, so low to mid-30s for you most likely. You get farther south towards Highway 82 and point south, low to mid-40s. So the farther south you live, the warmer it's going to be. And if you are traveling to the south, it's going to be flirting with 50 degrees. And we do have a nice little warming trend coming our way later this week. 50s, 60s, 70s in the forecast over the next 7 days. Rain chances returning as well. So dry tomorrow, dry Thursday, a slight chance for a little bit of rain through the weekend. Better odds Monday into Tuesday of next week. Now, I spoke of that reinforcing shot of cooler air for tomorrow. In some spots, you can see this cold front here. We're going to get a glancing blow with some cooler air, especially across the northern part of the region for tomorrow. A few clouds out there tonight and tomorrow, no moisture from that. A mix of sun and clouds on Thursday, too. We will start to increase the moisture and a few more clouds on Friday, and that will give us that chance for a few showers. Just a 20% chance of rain Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Notice this warming trend here. So 40 tomorrow, 52 Thursday, 56 Friday, 60s for the weekend, and maybe pushing the low 70s with a chance for some showers and storms by next Tuesday.
Another day and another matchup for the Bulldogs. This one just right across the border. More on the game against Alabama next in sports.
WCBI Sports with Courtney Robb is brought to you by your local Ford dealers. Go further.
For the 200th time, Mississippi State and Alabama are matching up. Things getting going tonight at 7:30. Tuscaloosa and the Crimson Tide playing host to the Bulldogs. And the Bulldogs going into tonight's game coming off of a win and needing to build some momentum on the road. Meanwhile, the Tide with something to prove after a loss in the Big 12 SEC Challenge with a 2-1 record against ranked teams this season. Alabama head coach Avery Johnson looks to see noticeable improvements and hopes to pull out a win.
There were things Alabama could have controlled, and we didn't control it. And the idea is, hey, when we can control a situation defensively or offensively with spacing, finishing your layups, everybody understanding what coverage we're in on our pick and rolls. If we switch to some sort of zone defense, what are your responsibilities in the zone? What do we value on offense and defense? And just get the job done.
Well, speaking of Alabama, one of the ranked teams they beat just last week was Ole Miss. Not exactly a banner week for the Rebels. After starting off hot in SEC play, the Rebs seem to have fizzled just a little bit. A loss on the road to Alabama and then a loss at the Pavilion this past weekend to Iowa State. Ole Miss gets set to take on another trip and play at Florida on Wednesday. Head coach Kermit Davis is confident that his team will bounce back while acknowledging the struggles they faced as of late.
It kills my soul, but it's just some of those things. I mean, I'm not the only guy doing it. A lot of coaches in college basketball are doing it. I just know with our team guys, with where we are and just kind of how many guys that we have in this league, if we're not in a premium maximum effort, we got no chance. I mean, no chance. And so, you know, and that's not at the maximum effort against this high-level team. You know, it's just, we're not going to win any games. And so that's just something why we've got to fight it to a maximum effort more than anybody.
In case you didn't know, there's a big game coming up this weekend. I'll give you a hint. It's this little sporting event called the Super Bowl. The 53rd Super Bowl is a battle between the New England Patriots and the LA Rams. The Patriots aren't exactly new to the Super Bowl. In the past 5 years alone, the Patriots have been in 5 Super Bowls. They were champs for 2 of those games. Actually, I believe they were in the Super Bowl in the past 5 years for not 5 times, but around 6 times. So people naturally are getting a bit sick of seeing them on the field, but Tom Brady and the Pats continue to block out the haters.
It's really about what we think we can do. And I think one, thing we talked about over the years with our team is ignore the noise. And, we use everything to motivate us. And I feel like for a long time people have expected us to, do so well. And those are good expectations to have, but also unrealistic a little bit at times. But I really feel like this team came together when we needed to. We came together as a group of men that, gave everything they could for this one goal, was to get to this game. And, the book hasn't ended. There's one chapter left, and hopefully we can make it a great chapter.
Well, the Super Bowl is this weekend. The Patriots and the Rams facing off on February 3rd on Sunday. It's going to be at 5:30 p.m. and where else but on WCBI on CBS. If you feel like it, go ahead and tweet me your predictions. I'd love to see if you care of who's going to win. I know a lot of us were hoping that these two teams wouldn't be the teams in the Super Bowl, but I won't continue to rub salt in that wound. That's it for sports. Your last look is coming up after the break. Stick with us.
As is typical in the South during the winter months, we will have bouts of cool air like today, tomorrow. And then we quickly warm up into the 50s and 60s.
And 70s.
Hey,
Wow.
Let's usher in February with some 60s and 70s, shall we?
Yeah, that roller coaster you always talk about. There it is.
There we go. So tonight down to around 20 degrees in some spots, but we're going to be adding about 50 degrees over the next 7.
My daughter is at home, and I've shared this with you. She just sent me a text asking if it's going to snow.
Sometime, somewhere. We missed it, sorry.
I am.